This is a pre-recorded Vault tour with Chris. We didn't do it live because of private sharing information, so we've cut all of that out of the video. But if you do have any questions about how Chris uses Obsidian or any elements of the workflow, put them in the comments section below so we can then respond to them. But now we've introduced him, I'll let Chris introduce himself again.
So I'm Chris Greiser, like in real life and in various internet spaces known as Pseudometa. Particularly in the Obsidian community, I made a theme, Shimmering Focus, and a few plugins, but mostly minor ones. So I'm not really a developer. I'm more like I think I'd like to call myself a leisure time developer, but because it's more like a hobby. I started during the first lockdowns when I was bored and staying at home and stuff. And yeah, so basically it all started for me with an interest in personal automation stuff. I was annoyed by this thing, and when I was looking for a way to automate it, and the tools I found didn't do what I want, so I had kind of was forced to learn a little bit of coding to make the tools behave in the way I wanted them to. And I learned more coding, and when I was able to make more advanced tools, and making more advanced tools, I learned more coding, and it was this vicious cycle. And now it seems that I can do a little bit of coding in CSS and JavaScript and whatsoever, and end up, and yeah, all of a sudden you end up with 10 plugins in the community store or something. I also don't really know how that happens.
I mean, I was with you until the suddenly I have 10 plugins bit. That bit, yeah, I'm not there yet. And I don't think I want to be there either, because that's a lot of maintenance.
Yeah, I'm actually looking for people who would love to take over maintainership of the plugins, because seriously, I have a PhD to write. I can't maintain all these plugins. So
yeah. Actually, do you want to share what your PhD is about very quickly? Because I know some people are researchers, so I'm sure they'll ask.
Yeah. I think it's also a little bit mentioned a little bit in the Discord community. Yeah, so basically, so I did my bachelor's and master's in sociology with a focus on sociology of technology and innovation. So it's not like I know next to nothing about family migration and social how do you call it, social equality and stuff like that, because my focus is like a sociological perspective on technology development and consequences of new technologies for society and questions like that. And basically in that area, I'm researching how software platforms work. And oh yes, that was an Alexa reminder. Not sure whether that's recorded as well. Yeah, whatever. And yeah, so that's also why was a little bit interested in getting into coding, because I'm kind of developers and programmers are my research subjects in a way. So like for my PhD, I interview Android and iOS app developers and ask them how they make certain design decisions and how that relates to business strategies from the platform, and how communities and stuff play a role with it. So it's a little bit hard to explain in a PhD thesis in 2 sentences. You're familiar with the problem as well. But so like basically the gist is how do platforms manage their ecosystems, and how do app developers deal with the way platforms manage their ecosystems.
Yeah, I imagine the Obsidian team would probably value a lot of your insights. I have no idea if you've spoken to them, but
yeah, it's like I think I mentioned a few ideas here and there, but not like directly to the Obsidian team, but more like generally in various Discord channels. But it's like, yeah, theoretically, I also thought about it. At some point, I could do a study of how the Obsidian ecosystem is managed, but even though it would be super exciting, and obviously it would be very cool to study Obsidian in my work as well, and not only use Obsidian but study Obsidian and my whole life is only Obsidian when, at some point. But even though that would be a funny thought, I think like scientifically it wouldn't be that great, because like, you know, you have to keep a certain critical distance, and I'm kind of involved in the Obsidian community and plugin development, so you could criticize that I can't keep enough critical distance from this. So it's like I'm partial, you could say. So yeah, probably someone else would have to do it, but it would be an interesting thing.
I was going to say that's the academic answer. That's not the personal answer.
Yes. The personal answer would be, of course, I would love to dive into Obsidian's ecosystem management.
Yeah. I think as an academic myself, or was academic, maybe in the future, we'll see. It's interesting to see the perspective of someone interested in a certain area of research. I'm like, I want to do this, but I can't because of study limitations or factors and variables and things. But I think what you understand from whatever you are researching could probably be applied in smaller app spaces like Obsidian.
So it's quite directly, even, because it's like my empirical cases in my PhD are like iOS and Android, because like Apple and Google, the big names, obviously want to start them. But it's basically ecosystem management in many ways is similar. It's like you have a platform and you have plugins or themes or apps running on that platform. And that's the whole idea of sociology, is to abstract away from the concrete case and seeing the commonalities and differences. So like, stop me if I'm just going off rail too much here, but it's like a really, really funny, interesting idea that I read from Uwe Schimann, like one German sociologist, was like, basically he made the example as a sociologist, we would see the Cold War between the Soviet Union and the US, and we would see an escalation situation, and we would then see an argument in a marriage dispute, and we would also see some sort of spiral or circle of escalation, and the sociologist would try to abstract those two into a more abstract general pattern of how conflicts escalate. But really, like normally you wouldn't really compare like marriage disputes with the Cold War, but the sociologist would, because you could learn, okay, what can I learn from marriage, from arguments in marriage, and can apply to the Cold War, and what can I learn from the Cold War and apply to arguments in marriage? So it's like, that's a little bit maybe also a PKM thing, because it's like personal knowledge management is about relating like heterogeneous knowledge bases in a way, and sociology in a way is exactly that. You see something here and you think, okay, can I maybe apply it here? You know?
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree. Well, as someone that did sports coaching as an undergraduate, sociology, psychology, and pedagogy in general is a big part of sports coaching, and by extension, obviously, teaching and education. So yeah, totally understand that. I'm really intrigued to see what you do in your vault to make that easier, or maybe you make it harder because the connections need to be thought out more. Obviously, there's different approaches inside of academia. So do you want to share your vault so we can sort of
yeah, let me share my screen. Just a sec.
For clarification, are you going to share a demo vault or your vault?
Yes, we talked about it, but YouTube doesn't know about what we talked. So yeah, I'm sharing my real vault, because I thought about sharing a demo vault, but it wouldn't really work, because a lot of the queries from Dataview and automations are tailored to the specific content, and also you can't really understand what the queries show if you only have demo content, so it wouldn't really work. And also that's why we are doing a recording and not a live stream here at this moment.
Yeah.
Okay.
not everyone can share everything about their life, unlike me.
Yeah, I mean, I am pretty open, but it's more like I think I don't have a lot of private content in my vault, but I think I have some, but it would take me a lot of time to find those. So yeah, basically what Danny is going to do is like edit the recording if I accidentally spill anything private.
Yep.
So yeah, so this is basically my starting dashboard. Here I'm using well, my own theme and my own plugins, obviously. So yeah, this is like just a random quote of a day, which I generated with, you can see here with it's basically a Dataview two-liner. Things I plan for the autumn. I wanted to make this plugin for research to do qualitative data analysis with Obsidian. Wanted to write, as everyone, a paper on COVID-19. And here's a workspace. And you can see I saved my current work in a workspace because, like, or maybe I can just show this one. So this automatically loads the workspace. And I'm basically, since the introduction of Obsidian 1.0, I'm basically using the workspace feature as a save my tabs feature. So maybe you are familiar with it from the browser, right? You have like a browser extension that lets you save a session and all the tabs you had at the moment. And after realizing the extent of new Obsidian features, I was like, yeah, I can basically use the Workspaces plugin, the core plugin already, and get exactly that. I can work on my paper, this one's in German, and then I can just say, where is it, save,
I think it's
save
Workspace.
and load another workspace, and then I can save it, for example, under temporary. And then
I do the same thing.
yeah. It's like so useful, and it's like I haven't seen many people using the workspace features like that. But it's like since I realized you could do that, I'm doing it regularly. So
so I'm curious how you've done the link, because for me, I've always used just the workspaces and then obviously the hotkeys to navigate between them, because normally I have 3 workspaces. I call it work, but it's essentially a temp. It's kind of like a checkpoint or a snapshot of a project.
Yeah, exactly.
Just save that for the moment. And then I have my home workspace and then another workspace which changes all the layouts because of the stuff I want to view. So how did you get the link in? Because I'm sure people are
here
interested.
it's like you can see it here. Yes, it's basically the advanced URI plugin. Actually, I'm using this a little bit differently, but in this case, I'm using it here. Let me show you advanced URI. Yeah, basically, this plugin lets you create links to pretty much everything in Obsidian, like run this command or anything. And I created a link that opens that workspace, which allowed me to make this clickable instead of having to go load workspace layout, or in this case my Alfred workflow for Obsidian, where I can load this. I mean, it also works, but it's a lot of typing, and I love automation. And so I was like, okay, if I regularly switch to this workspace anyway, I can just go here and click this, and I'm here.
So just as confirmation, because you've got the workspace saved, it doesn't matter if you save the workspace different. So if you change the tabs in the workspace, it doesn't change the link because it's the same workspace, correct?
The link stays the same. Yeah. So it's like if I go back here, and where was it? Here, the link is always in my Vault workspace temp, and that one always links to my temporary workspace where I been saving some stuff.
Yeah, I like that. I might use that when I start doing some more research in 2023, because at the moment I focused on the video stuff. So the videos, so once you've done it, you've moved on. But my research, I use workspaces a lot. So
yeah, my other most important use case for workspaces is like here you can see OW is for the Alfred workflow, and it's just it's the workspace switcher essentially, and I can save my current workflow load and so on. And most regularly I do this. It's for the long form writing. It switches, it opens the Obsidian long form plugin. And yeah, okay, this is just a demo because I haven't been working properly here. But like my academic writing, I have a very different setup. You see, the sidebar is gone and instead replaced with the sidebar from the long form plugin. And here, and I get another scene. And it's a fantastic plugin for writing of any sorts. I can reorder scenes and whatsoever. I can compile them to a big markdown file and so on. And I can. It even switches. I even said it that it switches the font. So, for example, here you see it's like the small details, but which I totally love. It's like here's a green background, and I have a serif font here. And if I switch back to my default layout, you see here is like here's a sans serif. I don't know how to pronounce it in English, like without serifs font, and the background is gray, dark, bluish. And so this helps me a little bit. It's like a visual reminder. Oh, this is a writing node. This is gonna be my output, which I publish to the world in the end. And this is like my internal workspace where I write my notes of all sorts.
Yeah, so just for clarification, with the Longform, I guess you could say theme, is that part of the Longform plugin, or is that part of the workspace that you saved?
It's so first of all, it's this plugin, Longform, fantastic plugin, and it's a feature of a Longform plugin. Where is it? Maybe I can see it here. It has tons of features, but yes, scene-only styling. Here, Longform will automatically attach. So basically, it's pretty straightforward to do very simple CSS snippets, and I have integrated a few of those CSS snippets into Shimmering Focus, my theme. And so you basically changes the color of the background, it changes the font if I'm in a Longform project node. And if I'm in a regular node, I get the regular theme. It's like, essentially, it's a feature for themes or CSS snippets offered by the Longform plugin.
Yeah. I knew that. I just thought people may ask, so I thought I'd ask you to clarify.
Yeah. Got to remember, it's not only the two of us here. Yes.
Yeah. That's something I made those mistakes when I was starting out on YouTube with Notion. I'd be like, oh yeah, you just do this, and I'd get loads of comments saying, yeah, but how? Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's like, especially with this interview situation, I have to remember that even more, because it's like, it feels like I'm talking to you, but we are actually talking to some anonymous YouTube audience.
Yeah, but exactly. Yeah. And they can't ask questions. They'll have to ask them in the comments.
Yeah, so leave a comment on YouTube and hit the like button or whatever. And you're welcome, Danny. And yeah, I guess if anyone has questions, I'll try to answer the comments in the video later on. Yeah.
Awesome. Right. Before you move on, obviously this is your theme. I guess you could say the files. Is it the files plugin on the left side, or what is that?
Oh yeah, it's okay. Let me switch to the default theme, because this is really, you can't tell what's over here. Yeah.
I had a guess of what it was, but I wasn't entirely sure.
So actually, I'm not using the file explorer at all. You can see here, where is it? I have actually turned off a lot of core plugins. I've turned off files. I turned off graph view because I don't use it much. I'll explain later. I turned off popovers, quick switcher, because I have a different plugin for that. And most of these I've turned off because I have different plugins or different setup for it. And here you can see it's like the recent files plugin, which in my view, it's a simple plugin, but it makes much more sense to me that I can see, okay, these are the files I've recently visited. For example, this is, you remember the other node from the Longform node here is over here. It's like the files I've recently been using. It's like much more intuitive. I want to go back to the node I was 3 nodes before or something. And over here, it's the breadcrumbs plugin, which I use to have related nodes. So some people have like their links to other nodes in here, in their node, obviously. But I wanted to have like a sidebar item where I have related nodes regardless where I'm in the node. Maybe I'm showing it now. If I have a longer node, for example, this on GitHub, and then I want to go to a related node, I would have to scroll all the way up and then click the link to the node. That's kind of annoying. So I was like, okay, I have them defined via breadcrumbs. And yeah, and then the breadcrumbs plugin will put them here. And wherever I am in a bigger node, I can just click go to the sidebar over here. So it's like quicker access to related nodes, essentially.
So how does that differ from backlinks and outgoing links?
I actually am trying to be more selective. Like there was, I think there was this blog post from the Zettelkasten people about why backlinks can be a bad thing or something like that. I can't remember it really, but I kind of agree, because like backlinks, if you rely on it too much, they just add too much noise in my view. It's like I mention this idea regularly, and then I'll get tons of backlinks, which I maybe didn't even intend it. So it's like, it's great for discovering things you haven't thought of, but it can also increase noise so much. So it's like, I prefer to use I've called it the similar key for similar nodes, just to make a more conscious decision what I want to link more explicitly. In a way. And also it's like, it's a little bit more customizable with sidebar and so on. And yeah, and this part here it's actually a little bit unfortunate. This is, let me switch back. This is the core outline plugin. And it just links to the headings here. But yes, because my theme is so minimal, it removes the tab headers just because I want to save space, right? I want to use the space, and I know this is the outline plugin, so I can save a few lines here, save a few lines there. It's like that's the idea. So in a longer node, I have like the outline here, and yeah, unfortunately, it looks a little bit similar to these, but these are files, these are files, and these are headings in the current file, essentially.
Yeah, I like it. It's like you say, it's minimal. It gives you all the information you need, and you know where it is. Like, other people don't need to know. Yeah,
it's like, yeah, mostly I use my vault only for myself, and I know where it is, so I don't need that extra. It's that space for me otherwise.
Yeah, right. There is so much to this vault. I'm just like, there's so much more. But before you carry on, the GitHub and Git note, I noticed the left sidebar got much larger. Was that just the outlines in there?
What do you mean? Yes, this is just the outline, because it's a longer node and it has a lot of headings and subheadings, and that's why it got much larger over here.
I thought it was. I just couldn't remember.
Yeah, it's like GitHub. It's like I can't remember all that stuff, so I basically saved the snippets for everything, and I just dump them all in here. But I'm not totally dumping. I'm like trying to categorize them, so I can like, okay, I forgot how the basic command for this or this worked, so I'm looking it up here. this was it. Or I'm like, okay, so these are the more complicated stuff like submodules, and I go over here. So it's like, yeah, just an overview note for myself.
Yeah, that's complicated. I'll leave you to the GitHub and Git stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. I can see your read later. Are they just normal to-do list items? They look like it.
Yeah, they're actually a read later node. So this is just a file called read later, which I have in the meta folder here, and these are just a few things. And that one is date. It was a date, also a relatively simple Dataview query, which retrieves all the links I saved there. So it's like, oh, wait a second. Do you even see if I type anything in Alfred because of the screen sharing?
No, I'm not seeing your Alfred.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah. So you actually didn't see when I mentioned the workspace switcher and so on?
I didn't see a pop-up, no.
Oh, okay. So that's something we should maybe correct, because then you would be missing parts of what I'm doing. Wait a sec.
If you're sharing your Obsidian, you could stop sharing and then share your screen.
Yeah, that would fix it. It's this, and yes, now you should see Alfred. Yes.
Yeah, okay. I can see it now.
So just for reference, this was the part I was talking about earlier with a workspace switcher.
Yeah.
Which I use the Alfred workflow for. And
yes, I had it in my head. Like when you said it, I knew what was going on. I just didn't acknowledge it wasn't on screen.
Okay, so let me just type anything here. So I have another Alfred workflow which just adds the current browser tab, and you see the notification over here. I close it and I go back here, and now you see now this item pops up here. So it's just a quick way to save my read laters and have them display in my in my world over here. And if you maybe also an interesting detail that it's like right now I only have 3 items because I'm very good at reaching read later list 0, I guess. Let me remove that one. But like the Dataview query, if I have piled up tons of things I want to read later, I have a limit, so it only displays 5. And this is some JavaScript through which basically retrieves randomly 5 papers. So every time I go back to the node, you can maybe see I go here and I go back here. And okay, this is now only 2, but if I do it multiple times, you see the order change, because it's every time it retrieves 5 random read later items. So just to mix it up a little bit, I get some sort of randomness out of it as well.
That's pretty cool. It's kind of like the readwise highlight, sort of showing highlights. Is it highlights or quotes that it shows? I'm not sure. I'm not a readwise user, but I know that it sends quotes to people. Or quotes and highlights from the books and things that they've read. So it might be it's sort of similar like that. But yeah, I like the random element to it. Well,
yeah, and also the limiting element is like at one point I have like 20 things I want to read later, and then I have a list of 20 things. It's just too much, and limiting it to 5 or 4 is something I could work with. And also, I'm not in the mood to read these ones, and I reload the node and it shows me a different selection of items, and maybe I'm in the mood to read this one, and I don't know, it works better for me that way.
Yeah. Are you in reading view? I would assume you are, or are you in live preview?
I'm in reading view for this node. So this is like the raw source mode, the Dataview queries. I think I shared them somewhere in Discord at some point. And so another thing for my dashboard, I'm using this over here. This is what was the name? Force exactly. It was this plugin which essentially forces this node always to open up in preview mode, because I don't need the Dataview queries. I want like the results. And if I'm here in editing mode, in sort mode, I mean. And if I go back, it switches back to reading view. It's just a convenience thing, which, in my view, it just automates a few more clicks again.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I just wanted to clarify, because it looks like the reading view, because obviously you've got columns in there.
Yeah, I'm not using live preview at all, to be honest, because I don't know. If I want reading view, I have reading view, and if I want to work, I actually prefer to see all the formatting, because it allows me to be a little bit more precise with it. So I actually don't use it at all, like the live preview feature.
Interesting. Yeah, I go to source when I'm doing some like code block work, because I need to see all the information. But when I'm typing, I'm in live preview. But yeah, yeah, that's interesting. So how are you doing the columns in the seed box?
That's a simple CSS snippet, which I activate here with a CSS class. It basically turns any any unordered list. I mean, we can do it over here as this, and you see it turns them into cards essentially.
Yep. Yeah, and for those watching, I've done a video on what I think is the same CSS. I assume you got it from the CSS library. I can't remember what it was, because they've got like multi-column, gallery, and there's another bit as well. Or is it your own?
That one is actually quite straightforward. So I wrote that snippet just for myself at some point, because I had like having long lists, like for articles, it's useful, but for like my own notes, which are a little bit shorter with a name, I thought like it's, again, I want to see everything in one page normally. Like I've zoomed in a little bit for here, but normally it would be a little bit smaller, and I want to see everything on one screen and don't want to have to scroll down all the time. And that's why I made it a 2-column thing, just so everything can fit into one space, one screen, I mean.
Yeah, especially with the it's not narrow. I think it's readable line length is the setting in Obsidian, but you've got the narrow view rather than wide.
Yeah. Also, what was it? Normally, my Obsidian looks like this with the size, so it's like no wasted space here. And I basically have Twitter as a news ticker. I mostly also only follow like newspapers and not really many people. I basically like to have a news ticker here on the side. And normally, and then it's like, I'm kind of a space efficient user in that way. I don't want to waste a lot of space here and here, and so it's like every inch of my screen is used purposefully in a way.
Yeah, I like it. I might have to customize mine a little bit, change it. You never know.
Yeah,
just keep going. But yeah. Okay, there is probably so much more behind the scenes, so I'm gonna stop talking and let you carry on.
I think I'll just finish this dashboard until we get into, I don't know, other stuff. I also don't know is like what exactly to show in my vault, because I haven't done really thorough vault showcase yet. So the next section is my seed box, which again similarly, it's a Dataview query, which not queries the content of a read later node, but it takes all nodes which have a seedling hashtag over here, and again, some JavaScript to make it random. And then it really basically links 4 random nodes out of my vault that I have hashtagged as seedlings. And again, if I switch back, you see a different selection here. And this icon is from the Supercharged links plugin, which just marks my seedlings as seedlings, which is at this point a little bit redundant, but in other spots you can also see it. So This is basically of my way of marking a node as this is a freshly created node or rather new node, and it's like I want to keep the volume of nodes down, because at some point you accumulate so many nodes and it becomes harder and harder to find the right nodes. So it's like I have this two-stage setup. So every new node I create is automatically seed link via template. And then I try to decide later on at some point, I have to decide, okay, do I want to drop the seedlings tag and it becomes and basically it becomes a permanent node in my vault? Or do I think, okay, this idea was shit, I can just delete the node, or actually this belongs into a different node and not into a separate node? So it's like a protective measure. So it's like at one day I had a great idea for a new node, but on another day I realized that idea wasn't so great for a new node. And just so to have an extra layer of protecting me from drowning in too many nodes, essentially.
So how do you add a new seedling note or seed note?
Depends on the scenario. So for example, the basic would just be the hotkey command N for a new node, and I would say demo for Danny or something, and this would be it. So it would be quite straightforward, and this automatically here gets the seedling tag because this is my basic template I have. And
right. Is that through just the default templates, or are you using Templater?
It's Templater, yeah, it's Templater. And so I have, what I also do is with my Alfred workflow over here, I just type here, create new node, and then I also get the new node. Oh yeah, which is like, again, Alfred workflow. If I'm just in some other app, I can just type here and save a new node without having to switch back to Obsidian. It's like small convenience features, essentially. And yeah, because maybe I'm guessing what prompted this interview is probably my article on big nodes and small nodes, I assume, with the timing. And
it was good timing, but it wasn't the reason.
Actually, it wasn't. Okay. But yeah, it was so. Actually, I'd say the majority of my content is in big nodes. So, and I have a little bit small nodes as well. So I would say 80% content in big nodes, 20% in small nodes. So I basically use both approaches, but like for different things. And so essentially most of my content is in big nodes. So I don't actually create new nodes that often, because most of the time I'm adding stuff to existing nodes. So it's like, yeah, I don't do that often already.
Yeah, I'm very similar. I read the article, and I have a very similar sort of process in my notes. I do have, I wouldn't say them smaller notes, but I use Obsidian notes as sources to go back to. So when I'm taking notes on normally academic articles on Zotero, I'll export them into Obsidian and then sort of link backwards and forwards. So they're not like small notes, but they're smaller than the main research note.
Yeah, so maybe let me show you for the big nodes, small nodes example. What do I have? Let me see. I can't think of a longer node. Maybe this one. Okay, so it's partially in German, but that shouldn't mind. As you can see here, this is a big node, and that's why I have an outline sidebar panel here. And yes, I can scroll quite a bit, and here's the backlinks panel. Just to avoid the confusion, it's again because this is too much noise. I kind of minimalized my theme, and basically this is from the big nodes. This is a smaller big node, or maybe what was it? this one is maybe fairly big.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
as you can see, these are my PhD notes. So it's like on this topic, on this subtopic of my PhD, I took all the notes. These are even from before Obsidian, just imported and therefore not perfectly formatted in all ways. So I don't have proper links to literature notes, but because when I started this note a few years ago, I wasn't using Obsidian and literature notes. So that's why this is a normal reference and not a proper reference to a literature note. And yeah, so this is maybe a good example of a bigger node.
I've noticed you don't have the status bar showing either, so you don't have a word count or character count.
Yeah, so again, this is another feature, so I can switch back to writing. You see, when I switch back, it shows up. Because why would I need a word count for my notes? It's like it's like the size doesn't matter that much to me. But if I'm doing writing, then the count matters, obviously, because like the journals have like a word count maximum or something, and then I want to see it. So it's like the idea is only show me the things I need at that moment. And when I'm writing, I need this, and when I'm not writing, I don't need them.
Yep. I do the same. I just sort of, again, sort of like, it's one of those things that is trying to notice what isn't there.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
spot the difference.
Yes. Also, that's I'm very sorry for the people on YouTube who get confused because I'm showcasing my vault with my theme, which is very minimalistic, but it's like, I don't know, here, if I switch back to the default theme, that's just like, here,
No,
you can barely use the breadcrumbs over here. It's like, there's so much less space here, and you have, it's just, I'm sorry, YouTube, you have to find a way around my vault with a theme.
So do you open many tabs? I've noticed you've got like I don't know whether it's a stack tab or it's a feature of your theme, but the title or the path is on the right side of the screen. Do you open multiple tabs at a time?
That's another, sorry, YouTube, another minimal feature. It's like, I have this feature, it goes away when so basically the tab bar goes away when I only have one tab open. If I have more tabs open, it shows the tabs properly. Yeah, but again, it's information I don't really need, because why would I need the information of a node title here? No, what was it? Nah. Yeah, because it would be redundant to see, okay, this is the node and this is the node. Yeah, so this is again wasted space. If I only have one tab open, I don't need that space. So I'm just getting a few more inches of screen real estate here.
Oh yeah, definitely. Something else I've noticed is you've got a 15 in the top right. Is that the Strange New Worlds plugin?
Yeah, that's the Strange New Worlds plugin, which I got over here in the sidebar. I haven't used it much, but I kind of like it, but I haven't explored it that much already. But it's basically on my to-do list to check out what I can do with that plugin, because I haven't used it much, or I can't showcase a lot with it. But I'm pretty sure I'm underutilizing it, and I'm sure it's useful, but I just didn't have the time to explore it properly yet.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. I was just curious to see if you'd looked at
it.
I've installed it, and I'm like, I need to find a use case, but yeah, I'm busy doing other stuff.
Yeah, it's just like the frequency of new plugins is like almost daily. We have a new plugin, and it's like, even if you only take the ones that are really exciting, it's like you still have to spend an hour just to get around to find out what the plugin can do for you. And yeah, I just sometimes don't have the time.
Yep, I can resonate with that.
Yeah, so maybe if I'm already here, maybe a different feature which I also like to use. No, it wasn't this. It was this exactly. This is another quick searcher plugin, which is I love it so much for big notes. This is just so awesome. It's lets me. You can see it in the background here. It lets me navigate my big note with basically an outline view, which, as opposed to the outline over here, I mean, this is at first this is basically the same, only a little bit bigger. But this is so much better because now here I can just search the headings of the current node, and it shows me, okay, I have only one heading in the node which has the term sharing, because this subheading is about the sharing economy. And I get over here. It's like, I would say it's an amazing feature for having a big node, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to navigate such a big node.
Yeah. So what plugin is that?
That one is another quick switcher. It should be this one. It's basically an improvement of a quick switcher core plugin, and it has I know you can check out the plugin README. It has tons of features, and you can configure pretty much everything about it. And it has over here, it has like this just the quick switcher replacement, and I can, for example, press Command 9 to switch to the ninth node over here. So it has like tons of small features like that. And yeah, here. And it also has this search which doesn't search the nodes in your vault, but the headings of the current node. And I can this is just keyboard navigation, which is better than the outline plugin here. But but the real strength comes from being able to filter. So I can say platform. Oh no, the German platform is written with 2 T's, and now it filters only. It shows me only the headings here, and now I can say, and I only got two nodes with which have the word empirisch, which I notice is a German word. So again, sorry, YouTube.
Well, funny you say that. I think the third most popular country on my subscriber list is Germany. It goes USA, UK, and then Germany. So we've probably got quite a few German viewers.
Yeah, I also know you can also notice in the screenshots shared on Discord there are quite a few Germans in the community, but it's like I try to like my vault has German and English, because it's like if I think in German, I write it down in German. If I think in English, I write it down in English. And if I read a paper in German, I tend to write the notes in German. If I read the paper, if it's an English paper, I tend to write the notes in English. And that way, my whole vault is a gigantic mix. So, for example, this note is in English, because I started my PhD mostly writing this all down in German, and my other notes, I don't know. I think GitHub is almost exclusively in English, because it's like all the documentation you can find online are in that language. And it's like also, PKM stuff is also mostly in English. Again, it's just a weird mix, because it's like the switching, having to switch between the two languages is just too annoying to me. If I'm already working in that one language, I write my notes in that language, and in the end you see just a mix here: time management, English, German, I think, English, and those are links again. So it's just a mix.
Are they the 2 languages you speak, or do you have another language?
I only speak those 2 languages, but luckily I'm quite fluent in English. Like, not really when talking English, but more like it doesn't matter to me whether I listen to the radio or podcast, whether it's German or English. I sometimes even forget which language it is. So like my pronunciation is really bad, but I understand pretty much everything in English. I can read everything in English, and I spend half my day talking English with like international colleagues and Discord and the internet, and a few international friends I met during my semester abroad. And then you keep talking to them on Facebook, so and stuff like that. So it's like basically half of my life I'm talking, reading, listening English. So it's like at some point I often don't see the difference anymore. I sometimes can't recall whether I've watched that TV show in German or in English, because at some point it's interchangeable for me. The only difference which you probably notice is that my pronunciation in English is quite bad, because if I'm using English, I'm writing in English or in Discord or papers or whatsoever, but I kind of rarely speak it. So it's like, also my accent is probably just too German.
So I guess going back to Obsidian, do you do any sort of like task project management in Obsidian, or is it mainly just notes and research?
Actually, let me think. I have a little bit of project management, but remembering that this is YouTube. Okay, so just a note for Danny editing this later on. So this might be something which contains private stuff. So, but I'm not totally sure. So let me just show it. Oh no, this is actually, this should be fine. Yeah, this is okay. I was lucky I hit the right Kanban, which doesn't have the more private projects. So this is like papers I'm working on, or papers which I freezer, meaning something like put on the shelf, maybe for later, maybe never, or whatsoever. And again, the notes are in English and the tags are in German. It's a little bit annoying probably for the viewer. And this is quite a simple Kanban note. I recently cleaned this up, but I have a few others. For example, this is a little bit bigger. So this is for a paper I'm writing, and like academic paper, and I basically have a Kanban view to organize a little bit Sketchpad for things I want to read. Just as you can see, dump around here some side info of things I did and some to-dos in separate forms. And this is the most which kind of project management or task management that I do in Obsidian, because otherwise I don't really do much task management. I use my calendar app and task management apps for that, because I feel like they integrate better with mobile apps and other apps if you have dedicated apps that do that for task management. But I've been playing with the thought of putting everything into Obsidian, but at least the last time I checked, the plugins weren't there yet to fulfill all the requirements I personally would have. I mean, I also know that in the community, the task management plugins improved a lot, I think, in the last couple of months. So maybe I'll check it out again. But for now, I do a little bit of project task management in Obsidian, but most of my tasks are managed outside of my vault.
Yeah, I'm basically the same. Any task that's inside of Obsidian is related to research. Now, I personally class YouTube videos as research, because in my mind, a YouTube video is a project, because I do research for the project. and then I write, whether it's a script or I write the bullet points and outline of the video, and then it's there. Like the habits of go to the gym, brush your teeth, that sort of stuff, have lunch, there's dinner, the events, that's all my calendar.
So I think I have like 3 types of tasks, I would say. I have the way I would describe it for the way how I manage it. So I have tasks that have a certain due date. For example, I don't know, read this paper, do this task until day X or whatsoever. These are all mine in calendar because it integrates better with other time-related stuff. And then I have tasks for the day for which I use drafts. It's also a Markdown app for Mac and iOS. I love it because it's great for quick capture. It also uses Markdown. You can integrate it very well with Obsidian. So I have like small notes over here, check out this theme or whatever. And I have just small notes over here. And these are basically all my fleeting notes as well. So I have a combination of tasks for the day. So this is everything I want to do today. And my fleeting notes. So for example, Danny, follow up, share link with him, and I can just write anything down. So I don't really have a distinction between tasks and fleeting notes. I try to keep them the same because it's blurry for me anyway. And so basically I have my calendar, which I obviously can't show right now, or don't want to show right now, where I have the tasks that have a due date. The tasks for the current day are in drafts for me, and the tasks that are related to a certain project, for example here, tasks that are related to this article I'm writing. It's basically how yeah, you can't see it over here because of a feature, but it's this here is an academic paper, and this is just the Kanban because I've removed the title. Sorry, YouTube. And yeah, so this is related to that project of writing that paper. I have a bunch of tasks, as you can see, and those are in Obsidian because I manage my projects in Obsidian, I'd say, in a way, but I don't manage my tasks in Obsidian. So the only tasks that are in Obsidian are like the tasks that belong to a project. And at some point when I decide, okay, tomorrow I want to do these 3 tasks, I would copy them and put them into drafts, for example, because just it's a little bit separation of concerns, because I know everything that's in here is something that I'm gonna work on for the rest of the day.
No, interesting. So I'm very similar. Morgan is what I use for my calendar, and I can have tasks in there. So I will just say, like, I want to work on this project for 2 hours, and that'll be on my calendar, and then I'll just go to that page and then do the task on the page. When I'm writing, so this is going back a couple of months because I haven't done the academic writing in a couple of months because other stuff. I tend to put tasks underneath sections. So for example, when I was doing research and there was a number that a paper quoted, so 56% of these people did whatever, I would put a task underneath that and say, double check this number or find synthesis, critique, or whatever. Do you put tasks in your notes?
Yeah, in writing as well. So yeah, so I'll explain the query from last time here. So this is somewhat demo paper I prepared because with the papers it's a little bit too complicated otherwise. So I have tasks in here. So what I do is enter the tasks in here. And so I basically put the tasks in here, or what I also do is doing the writing, and so I make an HTML comment so they don't show up in reading view. And yeah, I keep notes like this during the writing. So it's like, okay, here should go a section about this, or here I should quote this, and you can see here they are checked off. And the ideas, by keeping to this syntax, fix this. Here, this has the advantage. I have this is my this is how do you call it, a Dataview query, yes, which I basically where I'm basically querying the chapters of a paper, and as you can see, it also queries the number of tasks which I have, and you see here in that node I have most of the tasks checked off and only one open. And yeah, these are reflected over here with 11 from 12 and status and so on. And this also has a character count and a share of a, okay, again, this isn't the best node to showcase it. Maybe I could find a different one. But yeah, you get the idea. It's like basically showing how much is the first, how much of a total article is the first chapter, or how much to reach the target goal of 80,000 characters for a journal article, for example. And here it's like, okay, this chapter has 3% of that goal, and it helps a little bit with planning an article. Like I have fully written 2 journal articles in Obsidian with a method where it's like, I should really find a better node to show this.
Just for clarification, when you say chapter, that's a different file that's going to be collected together using Longform. Is that correct?
Yes. Let me show. It's going to be clearer when I can find it. Yeah, here you can see it. Yes. Here you can see it more clearly. It's like it's the long form term for, okay, this is a chapter, and here I can reorder stuff easily. And yeah, both go. I moved that stuff to a different location where for right now. Yeah, so okay, I can't find that node quickly, which is kind of ironic, but whatever. So yeah, basically this counts helped me a little bit, because it's like, okay, I'm noticing this chapter or section of a paper I'm writing. Okay, this is taking up 20% of the article, even though this is only a minor point. It should only take up 5% or something. So again, it helps a little bit with planning the paper I'm writing.
Yeah, that's a Dataview code. Do you mind just clicking in it so everyone can see what it is?
Yeah,
I would imagine it's quite large.
It's actually larger, because it uses this is only a short link, and the original code is a little bit bigger. So what was it? It was here in this folder, and here Longform word count. So again, it's a thing I would have to share somewhere, because it's a little bit bigger, this query.
It looks great. It looks like great fun. But yeah, I think that's the sort of thing that Scrivener users would be.
Yeah, it's like basically I have the Longform plugin implements some features of Scrivener in Obsidian, and basically I wrote this big Dataview query to implement the other features from Scrivener I was missing. And indeed, now that you mention it, yeah, the first papers I wrote were in Scrivener, and I really like the logic of Scrivener, but again, it isn't Markdown, it doesn't have plugins and so on. So yeah, Obsidian is just nicer, but I mean, credits where credits are due. They have a lot of nice features, and some of them I like. And again, this is the thing, I wanted to have this feature. No plugin had this, so yeah, I cooked it up myself on the weekend, or maybe I think it was rather 2 or 3 weekends than just 1 weekend. But I wrote it together just so I can get the Scrivener-like planning view of the article I'm writing.
Just in case anyone does ask, is it available as a template somewhere?
Yes, I've shared it in the hub and in Discord, and I guess after this Zoom call I'm gonna upload it somewhere and maybe add a link for below the YouTube video or something. But oh yes, I would have to write documentation how to use the template before that. Let's see.
They can figure it out.
Okay, of course.
I mean, if you want to write help documentation, go for it. But
Yeah,
otherwise,
it's like I mean, I personally, I really hate it if I find a new plugin or a new app, especially plugins where there isn't the proper README which explains to me what it does. It's like I really hate it. But at the other, on the other hand, I also get it. I mean, it's like most of plugin developers, me included, we do this stuff in our free time, and we just don't have the time to write. Okay, I got the tool working, I can work with it, I'm happy to share it, but I don't have the time to explain every detail how to use it. It's like, yeah.
But I mean,
I know the feeling.
It's funny you say that, because the course I'm working on, so that I've got an Obsidian course and I'm updating it for the new year, and onboarding Obsidian, which is what I'm calling the course, it's exactly that. It's me trying to do the, hey, I'm going to do all the really boring help documentation for everything. And I'm incorporating all of the forum conversations that I've had inside of there, my experience inside of there. So it's not just search help docs, it's here's everything else that people either leave out, or it's been updated but hasn't been updated in the help docs yet. Or from my experience as someone that doesn't program, the Dataview help documentation is great, but it's like speaking another language. It took me like 2 weeks just to understand what was going on.
Yeah. I mean, before diving into Dataview, I was able to. I could code a little bit of JavaScript, but it's still a little bit daunting, because you have to learn how the specific Dataview version of it in a way, because like you get the queries and then you can use JavaScript. It's like, but I think it's like thing what the mentality I try to have about these tools is like, okay, it's like two questions I basically ask myself. So question one, is it worth an investment? Pretty obviously. And with Dataview, it's like, okay, you have to invest a little bit of time, but Dataview does so much for you. I mean, it's like the word counts, a random quote because it's just nice, my read later list, my seed box, and so on. Everything is Dataview here. So it's like, I put a lot of time into it, but it also pays off in so many ways. So that's it. And the other factor, I think, which is less common, but I think is also useful, is the thing I'm learning a general thing, so I can carry over what I've learned, or is it something that I can't carry over? So do I have to learn a very specific syntax which only this plugin and no other plugin in the world uses? Okay, I'm going to be careful. Or is it, okay, Dataview uses JavaScript, and JavaScript is one of the most common programming languages in the world, and I can use it for template, I can use it for writing plugins, I can use it for whatever. So it's like, okay, I have to put to make the investment, but I can also, the things I've learned, I can also use somewhere else. So it's like, it's less time wasted. And if I can answer both of these questions with yes, and then I tend to dive into the plugins. And if not, I try to be a little bit more careful. It's like, yeah, I mean, I love, as one can imagine, I love tinkering with plugins and tools and configurations and themes and whatsoever. And it's basically a little bit my hobby in a way. Like other people go into the garden and tender to their plants or whatsoever, and I tender to my configurations in a way. It's like a little bit weird saying this, but it's like, yeah, it's a little bit of like my garage is my vault and my config files in a way, where, and it's like, yeah, it's like still even though I enjoy it so much, it's the time is just so limited. Especially, I mean, you probably also know it, like being a PhD student, I have teaching duties, I do write a paper here, and I shouldn't forget my PhD thesis at the same time. And when there's all the lockdowns in Corona and you can't do research and so on, it's like I'm somewhat limited, and yeah, you have to prioritize so much nowadays. Yeah.
Oh, exactly. I completely agree. When it comes to plugins, because obviously I know you explore a lot, I'm curious to see your community plugins list. Like how many?
Oh, yeah, sure.
How many have you got?
I think I'm actually what would you guess? Or let me ask it this way.
Yeah, I mean, knowing you've got your own plugins, you probably use them. But I would probably guess around 20, 25.
That's actually in the right ballpark. It's 39 plugins.
Oh, okay.
It's in the right ballpark because I know a few people who have like 80 or 70 plugins.
I mean, Sam, when I did the conversation with him, he said that he cleaned up his vault and he went from like 140 to 70 or 80. I was like, okay, I have a vault. I have a vault with them all, but I don't use them all. It's purely for testing.
Yes. Okay, but 140 is the highest I could. I think we from the Discord community, I think they have the highest number I can remember. I think they mentioned something like 110 at some point. I think that was the highest number of plugins I've heard of. And I think SLRVB has 80 or something, if I remember correctly. And I don't know, it's like maybe it's obviously bad to compare yourself to extremes, but I always had in mind, okay, there are people who have almost 100 plugins. I only have merely 30, 40. I'm on the lower end here, but yeah.
I mean, I think I have about actually I can check while I'm here. But yeah, so I have a one vault that I test all of my plugins and stuff in. And so in my current vault I have 18, but in the test vault I have 630 all installed, all active. But that's just to test them out to make sure that nothing breaks with anything else.
Yeah.
But I don't actually use the vault for anything. Like I think there are like 7 files and 2 folders in there. And then like 600 plus plugins.
Yeah. Okay. So if I like I like to live risky and just test everything in my vault, but I also have tons of backups. Do your backups, and so yeah, I think if I had like such a test vault, I think having tried out, I would say I've tried out maybe 150, 200 plugins, which at some point I installed, tried out, and decided to use them or to not use them. So yeah.
I did the test plugin vault a while ago, and it was like 620 plugins at the time. Now there's like 719 plugins, community plugins, something like that now. There are so many.
Yeah. I think in certain areas, like hotkeys, I think it's already oversaturated. We have, I think we have at least 20, 30, or 30, maybe even 40 plugins which do something with hotkeys, like this type of hotkey, that type of hotkey, and so on. It's like, I think that's an area where we just have enough, but it's like other areas where we are kind of lacking. For example, at spell check, we have only language tool and Veil, which is outdated and hasn't been updated for the new Obsidian version, and the built-in spell check. But otherwise, we don't really have that much spell check stuff. And yeah, obviously, I noticed it, and probably you too, because we write longer texts in Obsidian, which we want to publish later on. And there, for that case, spell check is really useful. And it's like, I still have to rely on external tools, and I would like to all the developers out there, I'd say, stop making hotkey plugins, make more spell check plugins, for example. It's like the again, the ecosystem perspective here, the focus of plugin makers tends to go to a different. It's like this area is oversaturated, and this area is in much greater need for plugins, for example. I mean, this is just an example. There are other areas for oversaturation and for the need for plugins as well, but it's like one of the striking examples, maybe.
Yeah. So do you want to just go through some of the plugins that we maybe didn't mention while we were going through?
Yeah, sure. So here I have advanced tables. I mean, I think it's auto install in my view in every vault, because it makes it's a no-brainer because it makes writing tables in Markdown so much more convenient. And I would say tables are one of the weak points of Markdown. They're not pretty, they're hard to handle, and you tend to not like tables in Markdown, and I fully agree with that. And yeah, advanced tables makes the pain a little bit less painful.
Yeah. I think if I was to use tables inside of my Obsidian Vault, I would use advanced tables, but because I don't use tables, I don't have it installed.
Yeah. I mean, it's at some point, I mean, you can, let me quickly go back here. So this thing could have been a table, actually. I mean, it doesn't really need to be a Kanban board because I don't use it as a Kanban in the sense of I move it around here. This is going to stay in this lane forever. This is going to stay in this lane forever. This is going to stay in this lane forever. And the reason why I have still made this a Kanban board because I wanted to have like a more condensed overview of a table. But because tables are quite tedious to maintain in Markdown, I instead implemented it as a Kanban board. But if tables were better in Markdown, this node would be a big table instead of a Kanban board, probably. But yeah, tables are a little bit one of the pain points in Markdown. One really has to admit, in my view.
Yeah.
I mean, a few plugins make it much more convenient, but it's still, yeah, whatever.
Not as nice as it could be. Right.
Yeah. So advanced URI, it's mainly, it creates links to commands, to nodes. It's basically an extension of Obsidian URI schemes. And I mainly don't use it actively, but I use it for my Alfred workflow, which we've seen over here. So the way this workflow with Alfred works, it uses the advanced URI in the background so that Alfred is able to open up the node I wanted to show. Here, sorry, it's like here. So mixing this up. So it's basically that way I switch around like a system-wide quick switcher, essentially. And because Alfred can't control Obsidian, it's like the advanced UI plugin serves as a bridge, because it's like basically Alfred triggers the URI and the URI triggers something in Obsidian, and that way all this can work.
Very nice. Yeah, it's one of those things that I haven't explored much, but it's on my to-do list of I need to have a look at this more.
Yes. It's also like the thing is, by itself, the advanced UI plugin isn't really useful, but it's useful as a component of automating it for some other tool. If you want to use shortcuts on an external app, or if you want to trigger something. This app should trigger something in Obsidian, then the advanced UI plugin is gold, in my view. But it's like the trick is, by itself, it doesn't really do that much, and therefore you have to invest a little bit of time to make it work, because you can't just use an UI. You have to integrate it into shortcuts, into Alfred or whatsoever.
Yeah.
So next one is another quick switcher. That's the one we saw. Great plugin, my view. Auto link title is a nice one. It's, I know. Are you familiar with it? Oh, right. I think I have to explain it anyway, because YouTube again. Yeah. So wait, let me get link. Oh, not that one. So let me get this.
So many different search menus.
I love searches. As you can see, also the thing you may have noticed, I don't use the File Explorer at all, because I 100% rely on Quick Switcher or Alfred for switching stuff around, and this suffices for me. And so I've shown it before. I've turned off a File Explorer core plugin because I don't really use it.
I'm the same. I have files like showing like as a tab because I use the default theme. It's there, but I never use it.
I mean, I
think I use
replaced
it
it
to move files.
I replaced it with recent items. I mean, it makes much more sense to me in my view. Yeah, so it's like what was it? Yeah, the auto link title. It's basically, you see here my clipboard. I have this GitHub link. This is my clipboard manager, and if I paste it, it automatically retrieves the title for that, and automatically applies the markdown syntax and so on. And this would work for pretty much everything. It's just it's a very background thing. It's just install, as opposed to Dataview, Advanced UI. It's just install, forget about it, and it does all the work for you. And it's just so convenient that you don't have to type all that stuff yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm lucky that Microsoft Edge does that automatically, like when I would copy a link and paste it. But yeah, I've debated about using auto link title.
But like the advantage of it is that it works for any app. So if someone shares a link from Discord, you can also paste it, and it would add the title and not only the browser.
Ah, that'd be cool. Yep. Okay, I'm adding that to my list.
Yeah, the lists are ever growing. Yeah. Okay, yeah, so better word count. It's only a small improvement of the core word count plugin.
I thought that was broken. Has it been fixed?
It has been fixed, but it's missing most of its features.
Ah.
So I think, let me switch again to a note where you can see the word count. Here you can see, the only improvement it currently does is here, if I have a selection, it shows me the words and characters in the selection. If I have no selection, it shows me the words and characters of a full node. Currently, that's all to it. I think the developer said they wanted to work on it again, but it's a minor improvement to the core plugin, but it's still an improvement. So yeah, why not use it if I do some writing? When breadcrumbs, also again, like navigation in all my vaults, just link to all over my vault, I can just link to related nodes. Here, one of those hotkey plugins. I mean, yes, it sounded like I criticized them, but I mean, I love them, but I just, I have a bunch of them, but like 5 are enough. So it's like, yeah, this one adds a bunch of useful hotkeys. What was
wow.
it?
That's a long list.
Yeah, it adds a lot of hotkeys, but I only use a bunch of them, to be honest. It's like, what was it? Yeah, here. Select the next word. Yeah, people might be familiar with it from the code editor, maybe. It's like, no, where's this? Here, so it's like, this is now I have 2 cursors, and I can write around with 2 cursors if I wanted to.
Right.
So that's what, this is the useful command. And the other command is merging lines. It's like 2, and remove those. And if I have 2 list items like here, I can just press this, and it merges basically them, and it also removes the dash at the beginning. So it's just the small hotkeys which are convenient to use.
Yeah, I can see myself using that one actually, especially doing the code blocks with the bullet points. I'm like, oh, I've got to get rid of all of these quote blocks.
As you can see, it adds tons of smaller hotkeys for tons of things, and I actually mostly use these 2, because these 2 alone are just so useful. Minor improvements, but yeah,
worth it.
Custom.js, it's basically for using external JavaScript files for Dataview and Templater. So it's deep. If you're deep down in the Templater or Dataview rabbit hole, this is quite nice. If you're not, completely ignore this when this plugin you won't make use of this plugin otherwise. And when Dataview, I mean, probably you don't need to say.
I think that should be auto-installed.
What?
I think it should be auto-installed into like every vault.
to a point, it feels like Dataview almost feels like core Obsidian, because it adds so much features that so many people regard as the core of Obsidian's functionality. But yeah, I don't think you need to explain why that plugin is great. We have seen a bunch here. Yes, default new tab page is, yes, okay, this is my own.
Self-promotion.
Yeah, sorry. But this is like, yeah, if I open a new tab, it automatically opens my dashboard node instead of an empty node. And that's pretty much it. It's a minor thing, but when Obsidian introduced the new tab feature, I thought, like, why do I always get an empty tab? That's like, it's like, isn't it much nicer to always land on my dashboard anyway, because it's my dashboard. So yeah, again,
Actually, I guess something I've noticed, you don't have daily notes.
Yeah, I also don't do daily notes. Yeah, it's like daily notes never really resonated with me. I don't know. It's like, I know some people value it, but it's like, it's just not the way my brain works. It's just, if I have knowledge I want to save somewhere, I add it to a note. And if I can't think of a note to add, then it's maybe not as important. Or for day-to-day stuff, I use fleeting notes and drafts, essentially. And I don't really have, in between, I don't really have the need for daily notes or something.
Yeah, so your fleeting notes in drafts is what I use my daily note for, just like random scrappy things I can just dump somewhere.
Yeah, so basically I use drafts a little bit like a daily note, essentially, but only like, I also don't keep them. I don't need backlinks from it. It's like, because that's a day-to-day scratchpad essentially, so I don't need to keep it in any way. And I'm quite particular of, like, with the whole seedbox method I have down here. It's like, I try to be careful adding content to the vault that isn't of value to me later on, because it's like, you're already now, like, the quick switcher is great, but you see, it's like, even though I have a lot of big nodes, I already have
1197.
Yeah, and it's like, the thing is, if the number of nodes rises, gets too big, it gets harder and harder to quickly navigate to that node. So it's like, if I platform and I only have a few nodes which fit here, and PKM or whatsoever. But if I have, let's say, 100 nodes which have that one keyword in the title, it just becomes harder and harder to navigate to it. And that's to keep the quick switcher quick in a way. I try to reduce the number of nodes when possible. So it's like, that's why I'm doing this stuff with seedlings, for example. So notes or ideas I had at one point are just seedlings, and they have to, I have to see them as useful at another point in time, so I actually keep them. And also fleeting notes don't even end up in Obsidian, because they are in drafts and they are quickly deleted in a way. And I do all of this to kind of keep my vault clean to the information I will actually use, and by keeping only the important stuff in the vault, I can find the information much quicker than if I added all the other stuff into it. So I know you can organize it, Obsidian very differently, but this way works for me better.
Yeah, totally get it.
Okay, let's see. Dynamic highlights is a great one. This plugin is also it's great, but this is also a time sync plugin, but like a time sync which also has great value. For example, as you can see here, for example, my punctuation is in blue, and that's a custom rule I added to dynamic highlights. I wrote a rule that says, okay, if if a word is punctuation, then make it blue, for example, because it helps me for writing my papers. It helps me to emphasize the punctuation. But you can also do tons of stuff. It's like one of those super flexible plugins. I can also say, okay, I want to emphasize every occurrence of a word. Okay, sorry, this is German again.
Yeah, because I saw it earlier where you had and to the they were blue words for
yeah,
both
words too. So what was it? Compatibility. Yes. Yeah. Well, what I also did here is like just these. I don't know how to call them in English. This
connection words.
This connection words. Yes, it helps a little bit when planning the writing, but it's like dynamic highlights is similar to Dataview and template. It's such a general purpose thing. I could also say, oh, I want to emphasize every occurrence of a word technology, or I want to emphasize every time I write a date in my note, I want to emphasize the date in red or whatever. And that's it's like one of those hyper customizable plugins. It does so many things. It's very useful, and I think it's one of the hidden gems in my view, because you can just do tons of stuff with it.
Very similar to Supercharged links.
Oh yes. Supercharged links does the same thing for links, and yeah, I guess you've seen it here. These extra icons here and here and here and here, and yes, and the quick switcher here. These icons are all supercharged links. It's great. It's like also it's like some people tend to think that supercharged links is about making it look nicer, but I would totally disagree, because it's like it also looks nicer, but it's also about visual scanning. It's like, okay, I know this icon is my Kanban notes. These are my writing notes. These are notes for tools. This is my relator list. These are statistics. These are my notes on tech companies.
Makes navigation quicker.
Yeah, it just makes the navigation quicker. I see here, okay, what is this? Okay, this is a note about algorithms because it has this icon. Yeah, this is a note about coding because it has this icon. It just makes visual scanning so much quicker and saves time by visual scanning, which is, again, probably a thing. If you have a few links, doesn't matter, but if you have tons of links, if you have a list of 20 links and you just want to find the right link, this plugin just saves you an enormous amount of time, in my view.
Yep. I use it as well. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let me see. What was this? Electron window tweaker. Yes. This is only a cosmetic thing. Yeah. It does this. As you can see, my window gets more transparent or less transparent if I change it here, and it just looks a little bit nicer with a little bit of transparency, in my view.
Okay.
But, yeah.
I've got an orange background, so it wouldn't work with mine.
Yeah, everything orange with you, I see.
Yep, everyone knows what my stuff is like at sport. Whenever there was a drinks bottle left behind, if it was orange, it was mine. If there was a bag,
orange bottle is yours. Huh? Yeah, would be useful, yeah. I can see the use in there.
Well, it just means that if there's anything orange left behind, people just assume it's my stuff. So
so you get gifted a lot of orange stuff by accident?
I have a couple of times, yeah. They were like, is this your bag? No. It's orange though, so good guess. So, but yeah, orange has been my color the color that I've been associated with for years now. So
yeah, I mean, the first thing I saw in the Zoom call was Danny in front of an orange wall with an orange sweater. So
yep, it's on the floor now.
Yeah, I only saw an orange image, and I was like, what's? I can't distinguish the lines properly because everything is orange. But yep. Okay, let's not derail this any further. Okay, so yeah, the next one, Footnote shortcuts. It's yeah, it's probably something I should demo here.
I saw in your notes you were using Markdown citations, I assume for Pandoc export or long-form Pandoc export. So I'm curious to see how you use footnotes.
Oh no, for footnotes, it's just this shortcut I can write here. And hotkey. It's super useful to navigate between.
Right.
If you do footnotes in academic writing, this is just super useful. And I actually I don't use the citations plugin because I have my own Alfred workflow for it. But here it enters the Pandoc citation right here. But essentially, you get the same functionality with the citations plugin.
Right. What reference manager do you use? Zotero?
And I actually this is funny because the first article I wrote that I shared with the Obsidian community was an article explaining why I don't use Zotero. So I think it's linked in the hub, and it's one of the pins in the #academia channel. And it's like, I have a bunch of issues with Zotero, for example, that if you want to use Pandoc, and Pandoc is a must if you write in Markdown, you require Pandoc, and Pandoc requires BibTeX as a citation library format. And Zotero says things in their own format. And when you need yet another plugin to export better BibTeX to export everything from your Obsidian library into the BibTeX library, and this BibTeX file is also required by citations plugins or whatsoever, like this one. And then you have like this whole chain of plugins, and if one of them fails, you got problems. And then you think about syncing, and you have like, okay, I want to sync my Zotero library with the BibTeX library so everything works correctly. But if you have a computer in your home office and a computer in your office, then you got Zotero and better BibTeX over there, and then you have all of a sudden Zotero 1, better BibTeX 1, Zotero 2, better BibTeX 2, and you got all of a sudden you got 4 libraries you have to keep in sync so that 5 other plugins around it work correctly. And it was too brittle for me, and I regularly had syncing issues with that. And then I had this entry in this library, and this entry wasn't in that library, and it drove me nuts. So I solely worked with a BibTeX file, because citations work with BibTeX, Pandoc works with BibTeX. I actually don't need that Zotero part anymore, because I have notes on the literature I have in Obsidian. So I don't feel the need to keep Zotero would be an extra layer for me that doesn't add that much benefit to me, because if I want to save information about an article I read, I do it in the literature note. If I want to cite it, I have a citation picker, and I don't really have a use case for Zotero anymore in that way.
Interesting. I do my highlights in Zotero, so that's the main reason I use it, because I go through, I highlight, and then I export using the Zotero integration. But
then again, if it's only like the highlighting and the exporting of the highlighting, there are tons of PDF readers that do that as well. So you don't need an extra app for that, strictly speaking. But I know I'm a bit in the minority, because I think most Obsidian academics use Zotero, but I don't know. I can do without it, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, once you've got a flow that works, just stick with it. I mean,
yeah.
Mendeley works, EndNote works, and obviously a BibTeX file works as well.
Yeah,
so
it's like, yeah, that's probably the best advice you can give to new people exploring Obsidian. Or, for example, if you do a workshop or whatsoever, stick with a workflow that works. And if your workflow works, you don't need to change it, and don't need to install 10 fancy new plugins. It's like, I have tons of plugins, but I actually installed all of them because I had a use for it, and I was never like, okay, this plugin could be useful at some point, let's keep it here. It sounds weird, but I actually use all 39 plugins regularly, and so it's like they kind of have a use case in place here. shoot, how long is this going? So I think we should stop chit-chatting so much, otherwise we never finish this.
Well, yeah, if we get through the plugins, I think we can call it there. What's the time? Yeah, so I think we're closing in on about 2 hours, which is about the length of the other streams.
Okay. So let's try to stay focused.
Force note.
We have seen that was forcing the reading mode. Jump to link is okay. I have to go. What was it? It's like, okay, let me demo this here.
So you're adding in some links
from adding
other pages.
Some links. There's some bug in my config, but we should also work here. Jump link. Now, as you can see, it shows me the little letters here, and if I type one of those letters, it switches to that node. It's basically a plugin that allows me to navigate to links without using the mouse, just staying on the keyboard a little bit quicker.
Right. I noticed, or it looks like you're a Vim user as well.
Yes. If you're a Vim user, you're gonna love this plugin. It's essentially implementing Hop, Lightspeed, or Sneak, the Vim plugins, just as an Obsidian plugin. If you're a Vim user and you know one of these plugins, install Jump to Link because it does the same thing in Obsidian. Yeah, right. It's a minor thing, but it's again saves a little bit of time. Yeah, Kanban, also no-brainer. Language tool, I think. Yeah, I don't think we need to showcase this one.
It's a spell checker, basically.
Yeah, an advanced spell checker. It also does a little bit of grammar, and this plugin is really well integrated with Obsidian, so you can click suggestions and stuff. Yeah, and yeah, it's basically the best, but also one of the only spell checking plugins around on Obsidian.
Yeah, the stream I did yesterday with Martin, also from Germany, uses that quite a lot.
Yeah, I mean, for writing, every time I finish a section, I run the plugin, so it's great. Link fav icons you probably have seen already. Yeah, it's like it adds to external links get the fav icons from the browser. So it's basically Supercharged links adds icons for internal links, and fav icons adds icons to external links.
And pairing that with the other plugin that does the automatic sort of linking, showing the title. I can't remember what the plugin was called.
Exactly. So it's like basically both plugins work very differently, but in the end, it's about just adding some icons to the links.
Yeah, very nice.
Then Linter, I don't know. It's like, let's see, can I demo it?
I was going to say, how are you going to explain it? I know what it does.
Yeah, or maybe I'll just do this. And Linter does one command, and it basically automatically formats stuff. So too many blank lines, or if I have tons of spaces at the end of a line, they are all gone. And it's all of it. It basically automatically formats all the small annoying stuff and makes the node automatically a little bit nicer and cleans does all the annoying cleanup stuff.
Yeah, when you've written a manuscript and you put a full stop in the wrong place, well, two full stops like after each other, or maybe like three spaces.
Two spaces here, an error with a YAML there. It's like all those annoying things that like take up a few seconds here, take up a few seconds there. It's like it adds up, and it's like I just press Command S for saving, and it's all cleaned up for me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice. When I get back into research in 2023, I know I'm going to install it when I start researching. It's like I've got a list of plugins I know I'm going to install when I start doing more research, and that's one of them.
Yeah, it's like, but not only for writing, also for regular notes. It just cleans them up and fixes indentation, fixes spaces, fixes blank lines. Yeah. Also, Longform is like the go-to plugin for if you do long form
writing.
Yeah, it's I mean the name says it all. It's straightforward, and
I'm surprised it doesn't have more downloads, I must say.
Yeah,
because it like
12,000 and.
I mean, when you consider like some of the other plugins have 30, like DB Folder has 30,000 downloads, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, even Strange New Worlds, I think, is close to Longform as well, and it's like that's a new plugin. 725. Wow.
Yeah,
Didn't realize there's that many.
Yeah, I think the issue, or not the issue, but the thing about the plugin is like DB folders or Strange New Worlds, they are general purpose plugins, so everyone can get use out of it. But Longform is only for a specific subgroup of Obsidian users, people who publish long-form writing. And even though maybe I'd say most of them probably use Longform, or if not, they probably should. But it's like, it's only a subgroup of the Obsidian user population in a way. And that way, even if everyone in that population uses it, there's still far fewer than the overall Obsidian community. So that would be my guess.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like in my head, I associate Obsidian with students, and students are writing essays, but obviously not everyone using Obsidian is a student.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of students, but as a student, you do writing, but you don't do long-form writing yet. I mean, I'd say the long-form plugin only becomes really useful if you have, for example, a bachelor thesis or something, like if you really have something that is quite long. If you only write an essay at the end of a term, that I think for that you don't really need the long-form plugin, because that you can do in one Markdown node with the outline view, and that's totally fine, I guess.
Yeah, personal preferences. I was just thinking because the essay app from Jordan Peterson's son, I can't remember his name, that essentially mimics Scrivener or Longform, and tries to break all of the sections down. So your introduction would be a section, your lit review would be a section, your methods a section, and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess it's personal preference, or maybe just hasn't had the popularity, like big video explode somewhere yet.
Or
blog post.
I mean, so many. I think most YouTube videos on Obsidian showcase Dataview at some point, but it's like far fewer showcase other plugins. So yeah,
they're hidden gems in the community.
Yeah. It's like really, for example, with a dynamic highlights plugin, I'd really say it's a hidden gem. It allows you to do tons of customization, but it's like even on Discord, people rarely speak about it, which is a bit surprising to me. Yeah, but anyway,
let's go through.
Let's keep it under 2 hours, right?
Let's try. Right, we've got about 9 minutes.
Okay, and still half left. Oh, great. Okay. Metadata extractor. It's by commit and job is the alias for Koala, the Discord mod, just so people know. And it's the same thing. I also don't use it actively. It's the same thing here. It's the plugin that reads the Obsidian data, so my Alfred workflow can access it. So basically, Advanced UI is do an action in Obsidian, and metadata extractor is read information from Obsidian for an outside app. So basically, those two I only use for Alfred, but I don't use them manually in any way. Where was it? Yeah, here. Breadth, if you like to test out new plugins, it's useful to test out beta plugins. Strange New World, like enhanced backlinks, I'd say. Is that a good description?
Yeah, we went through it briefly earlier when I asked you about the 15 links. So
yeah, but I also don't feel confident describing that plugin because I haven't used it that much yet. So yeah,
I'm the same. That's why I sort of left it to you.
Yeah. Here, image and editor is a simple plugin that does what the name says. if you're in source mode, you want to see in preview of your image without switching to preview mode, you get the image. Yeah, this one is useful for academic writing. I think if you do academic writing, it should be an auto install.
Do explain.
It adds these pop-ups, for example, which okay, this is kind of unfortunate here, but now when I'm demoing this, they don't work. But usually you get the reference information over here.
Right. Oh, it's in like I assume in the citation style you choose.
Yeah. Let me see. Where is it?
And we're back in the Longform plugin view of a file.
Yeah, and for some reason, yes, I don't know why it's not working right now, which is kind of bad for YouTube. But yeah, it shows you a pop-up and says gives you the full citation, and that makes it super useful for academic writing. Yeah.
So for clarification, when you export this manuscript as a paper, does it replace those highlights with the reference information that you want with the bibliography at the bottom?
If you set up Pandoc correctly, it does that, yes. And basically write a markdown and export everything to a nice Word document, because unfortunately, most of the world still uses Word, and so our end product still has to be Word. But before that, we can stick to Markdown with these.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see what the rest here. Yeah, this is also a nice background thing. It automatically renames images correctly that I paste. That's also a small thing, but yeah, let me take a screenshot here. And now you see I pasted it and it automatically gets the correct name from the node. So this node is called lorem ipsum because it's a test node, and it automatically renamed the image file. It's a small feature, but small time saver once again.
So what happens if you take a screenshot and you paste it in from somewhere else like YouTube? What would the name be? Still pasted image, or?
That's the plugin settings. You can tell it to rename everything, to rename only screenshots from here or something. It's in the plugin settings somewhere. I mean, it's a small thing that automates some stuff for you, but it's better than having screenshot 157 and have tons of those in your vault, and then you can't distinguish them easily. And that way I at least know to which node they belong to, which, yeah, it's not absolutely necessary, but it's a nice addition.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, recent files over here.
Yep.
We already had that one. Yes, what was it? Scroll offset is also a small convenience thing. Let me go back here. So if I'm here in the node and if I go down, so if I scroll down, it keeps a certain distance at the bottom, and if I scroll up, it keeps a certain distance at the top. So my cursor doesn't end up at the top or at the very bottom. It's like it saves you a little bit of scrolling tasks. And again, it's probably a plugin Vim users are gonna laugh, but and others.
I think it's similar to a typewriter.
Yeah, it's typewriter, but it's actually a typewriter, but it's a little bit more flexible. It gives you a little bit of leeway, so I can. I configured it to basically that my cursor is always somewhere in the middle and not exactly in the middle.
Right.
That's probably the difference. So it's like, where was it? Yeah, you can define the setting here.
Nice. I'm adding plugins to my list. I've got a list in my head. I'm like, I'm gonna take that one.
Yeah, it's the same. I also saw every time I see a YouTube video, even though I tried out literally more than 100 Obsidian plugins, there's still something like, oh, I use this plugin to do this, and yeah, there goes another
Things
one.
get updated. Things get up. I look at a plugin, I'm like, no, I won't use that. And then 2 months later, I look at this, I'm like, actually, that's good now. I'm going to use that.
Yeah. That makes it so hard. You don't have to. You not only have to keep up with new plugins, but with updates of existing plugins. And boy, the speed of our Obsidian community is actually quite astonishing sometimes.
Yeah, that's why I have to be in the Discord. And anyone that isn't in the Discord, you will not keep up.
I mean, you can still use Obsidian, and it's perfectly fine with a few plugins still, but it's like, yeah.
I think people 2 hours into this are probably using Obsidian. I can't imagine a new user still being here. But you never know. Then maybe they skip through parts of the video.
Yeah. Okay, but okay, 2 hours is going to be rough. Okay. Where were we here? Sidebar toggler. It's just what the description says for window managers. It automates some stuff for you. This one is one of mine, and yeah, it makes some hotkeys nicer. Style settings, probably I think most people should be familiar with this. It's also one of a few auto installs in my view. If your theme supports it, you have tons of settings for the theme. Supercharged links we mentioned already.
Style settings and supercharged links works really well together.
Yeah. Those as well. And when we have templater, I think probably the other people will talk about templater more than me.
We had Sam on, so he's the maintainer.
Okay, so I don't need to waste the precious seconds I have left with describing templater because it would take so much time. But yeah, it's
so what do you use it for though? I'm curious. Like, how many templates do you have? Like loads?
I have a few, but not much. As I said, I don't create new nodes that often. And I also do it as for small scripts. So for example, you can run custom JavaScript on a file with templater. So it's like for the people that know what running custom JavaScript on a file means, the templater does that and it's cool for that. And for the people who don't know what running custom JavaScript on a file means, you don't need to care about it.
Yeah.
It's like
it's a really nerdy thing. You don't have to concern yourself with.
Well, if you can do coding, it's great. If you don't, if you cannot code, template is still valuable, but you don't need to concern yourself with JavaScript features. And text generator. It's like basically AI generating text. So it's like I also haven't used it that much, but like I'm planning to use it, but it's like kind of weird getting into a workflow for it. So knowing the right moment now, should the AI finish the sentence?
I'm in the same situation. I'm like, do I? Don't I?
Yeah, so maybe it's a workflow thing where you have to get used to using it in a way, but that one I'm still experimenting a little bit. This one is just for theme designers, some small shortcuts. I mean, for example, this one you have seen where I just switch themes with one hotkey is theme design utilities. It's a bunch of small hotkeys that just make your life a little bit easier. Tidy footnotes is basically Linter, but for footnotes. It sorts the footnotes correctly. These two are Vim plugins. This is also a case if you're a Vim user, install those plugins. If you're not a Vim user, you don't need to care about these two. But various compliments. I don't know if it's also that's one is maybe worth talking about because it's a hidden gem plugin in my view. I don't know. I think not many people use it. Okay, yes. It's a little bit more. But I don't know, it's like, at least I don't read much about people using it, but it's a fantastic general purpose plugin that does tons of things.
I found it actually because I had Completer, and then Complete was just like, hey, go use that one. I was like, okay.
Yeah, but I mean, I just type in, let's say, read. Here. It auto completes the link, which for some reason has this visual bug. And or I can type here, and then I can complete the word. It's just tons of these. Also useful, also quite useful. It completes the front matter as well. For tags, for example, this is super useful because this is not only like a time saver, but it also ensures consistency because it's like sometimes I use this tag, sometimes I use that tag, for example, plural, platform or platforms as a tag. And using the auto completion here ensures that I have consistent tags, and which just keeps the data cleaner in a way.
Yeah. I must admit, with the auto-completion, I got frustrated when typing because it just popped up and I was like, no, I know how to spell this word already. So I changed the settings for it to be like a 7-letter longer word because it was just annoying every time.
You can totally, it's a great plugin because you can also fine tune it in the settings. So like it should only show up after this many letters, it should only show up after this many milliseconds and so on. And also great is it's like one thing I haven't actually seen anyone use, but I also use it for callouts, for example. So I write this, and now it gives me a callout. So I don't have to type all the callout syntax. And I have like snippets for all the callouts. So this is a warning callout. It's like
Nice.
make this typing super quick. It's super convenient in my view. It's like a small thing that I actually haven't seen many people use before, but it's like a fantastic use case for a plugin.
Yeah, I use the hotkey, but that makes actually specifying what callout it is much easier because at the moment it just defaults to note and then I have to change note to whatever I want every time.
I think I have set it up. Yes, if I type callout, I can just select one of these and it automatically gets there. It's like that's what I love, like the small time savers. It's just, I don't have to type all the stuff manually. It does it automatically for me. And that's the type of plugin I kind of love anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. I think that covers all of the plugins, all of your Vault. So is there anything else you want to add before we stop the recording?
I don't know. Actually, it feels a little bit exhausting. I'm talking for 2 hours, and I also had a Zoom call before. So I actually think I talked way more than you because I'm the one showcasing my Vault, obviously. So actually, I think I've talked enough for today.